Hi guys, it is Aoife and I'm here with another weekly wrap up. As most of you guys know, I was away this week up on holidays up in the north of Ireland, and I had a great week just full of reading, relaxing, a lot of Gilmore Girls because I've been rewatching the series, so that was great. A lot of beach walks with my dogs, which they loved, and yeah, I feel lovely and relaxed, and I really don't want to go back to work this week, but I guess I have to. So I didn't actually read as much as I thought. I thought I'd get literally a book a day done, and I didn't really. I kind of just was relaxing so much and just watching movies and the Gilmore Girls and stuff, so I didn't actually spend most of my time reading, which I thought I would end up doing. But I did get a few books read, obviously, and the first book that I finished during the week since my last video was a book I mentioned during the Friday Reads segment of my last video, which was Things We Keep by Sally Hepworth. This was a book I got from NetGalley, and it is about a woman called Anna who gets early onset Alzheimer's, and she's sent to a care home where she ends up falling in love with another patient with early onset Alzheimer's as well. And then a nurse in the care home, or she's not really a nurse, she's like a chef slash cleaner in the care home, ends up finding out about them, and she wants to try and keep them together when everyone else is trying to force them apart. And it's just their own story, and I really enjoyed this book. It's a really fast-paced, good, nice story. There's obviously some difficult bits in it because you are dealing with people who are sick and who are getting kind of traumatic events in their lives because of their Alzheimer's, and it was just really great to read about and to see how they were treated by different people, and how, I felt like this book really focused on people beyond their illness, like Anna and I think it was Luke the guy's name was, though I can't remember now, but this kind of focused on them as people and their personalities and their characteristics, rather than them just forgetting things and them being, people living with this debilitating illness. And Eve, the other woman in this, has obviously got her own things going on, but she ends up really attaching herself to Anna in particular and her relationship with Luke, and she starts seeing how even though she has Alzheimer's, there's part of her that still remembers Luke all the time. And it's just really nice story, and it just came together really well. All the characters had their own, they were really strong. Each character was really strong in their own right. Even all the other residents in the care home, they were all just had their own little quirks and things about them, and you really end up caring about them, even if you don't get a lot of them in each chapter or so. You really do care about each and every single person in this book, and it was just really great. I really enjoyed it, and I gave it a 4 out of 5 stars. The next book I read, I did have a physical copy, but I left it up in Donegal in our little kind of library there, and it was The Tudor Wife by Emily Purdy. This is one of the books I read for the BookBuddyathon, which I was doing with Leigh over at Sweet Love Books, and yellow was her favourite colour, and there's a lot of yellow in this book, which is why I chose to read it. And this is about Jane Parker, who was the sister-in-law of Anne Boleyn, and it's kind of her story about when she meets Anne Boleyn, goes through basically everything with Anne Boleyn, becoming the mistress of King Henry VIII, and then becoming his wife, and then on and on until her eventual beheading. And then it also shows Jane Parker becoming kind of the lady in waiting to Catherine Howard, which was Henry's wife after Anna of Cleves, and she was also Anne Boleyn's cousin, and she also got beheaded. So it shows Jane kind of going through a bunch of different queens to King Henry VIII, and kind of her story, I guess. This was good. I gave it a 3 out of 5 stars, just because once you read these kind of stories, they all kind of, they all kind of become the same, because obviously it's historical. You can't fictionalize it too much. And I have read a different kind of story by Philippa Gregory, I think, about Jane Parker, and it was a little bit similar to this one. She had the same characteristics. She obviously she's never really portrayed as a nice person, because she did kind of dob in her husband, and end up kind of, her statement was one of the reasons her husband ended up getting beheaded as well, who was George Boleyn, Anne Boleyn's brother, and he got beheaded around the same time as Anne. And because of this statement that Jane Parker gave, that he had basically been having incest with Anne. And yeah, so once you read it once, you're kind of reading it again. This was a good story. It wasn't anything spectacular. 3 out of 5 stars. The next book I finished is one that I had been really highly anticipating for a really long time, but I'd never quite just picked it up. I kept picking it up, putting it down, picking it up, putting it down, and finally I read it, which was because of Lily, because she chose this one for me out of a selection of books I gave her, and it's Crown of Midnight by Sarah J Maas. This is obviously the second book in the Throne of Glass series about Celaena Sardothien, who is an assassin, and this was really good. I gave it 4.5 stars, but I'm thinking I might drop it down to a 4 stars. Like, the story of this is good. Obviously I can't go into too much detail. I like the relationships in this, the romantic relationships, obviously, which is the romantic relationship I ship. I liked it because it happened in this book. But there's just some different things that like just annoy me. Like there was so much of Chaol and Dorian pining after Celaena, and then seeing them with each other, like Chaol seeing Dorian and Celaena walk out of the library talking together and his heart hurting, and then Dorian seeing Celaena smile at Chaol the way she'd never smiled at him before, and his heart, just being a little bit heartbroken. And that happens about 5 or 6 times with each of them during the book, and it just gets really tiring, and I'm just kind of sick of it. Like, I feel like the whole love triangle thing really takes away, it tries to take away too much from the actual point of the story, which is Celaena and the mystery that she's trying to solve within this book itself. And I just feel like it kind of doesn't do her justice, and she's a really great character, and I think that, I don't know, I just think the love triangle bit just lets her down a lot, and I don't think there should be so much of an emphasis on it, because it just gets boring and tiring. And as well, there's sometimes with Celaena where I just feel like she doesn't quite add up. Like, there's some things that I just feel like she shouldn't do. She's not a consistent character, I think, sometimes, and I can't really pinpoint what it is exactly, but I just feel now and again she's just not consistent, and she's a little bit flaky about things, and I just feel like this is just something to do with the writing, and maybe in the other books she does become a little bit more solid. But there's times where I just feel like, as this great big assassin that she's supposed to be, this really famous killer, that, I don't know, she just doesn't measure up to it all a lot of the time for me. So I did give it 4.5 stars, but I think now I will drop it down to 4 stars. Still a really good book. The story itself is really great, once you obviously skip the love triangle bit a bit, and you don't focus on it too much, and don't let it get you angry the way I kind of did. But I'm really looking forward to going on and reading the next book now with all the revelations that came in this book. I really can't wait for the next one, and I'm going to go out and try and buy it as soon as possible. So I can't wait. The next book I read was my buddy read with Lily, and this was The Wrath and the Dawn by Renee Ahdieh. This is, I think it's a retelling of 1001 Nights, I think. But I'm not 100% sure, please correct me on that if I am wrong. But this is basically about a girl called Shazi who ends up marrying this king called Khalid, and she basically has gone into this marriage knowing that she is most likely going to die. She's going in for revenge because this king marries a new bride every single day, and by the dawn of the next day he kills his bride, and he killed her best friend called Shiva, and he ended up, she wants revenge on this guy, and she basically has to try and convince him not to kill her by the next day, and she has to try and find a way to kill him, and yeah, that's basically the gist of the story. This was good. I did enjoy it for the most part, but I just felt really let down for a lot of it. I think the world building wasn't great. You go into it kind of blind, and I feel like I was stumbling trying to keep up with what was going on, because it's like almost as if you're supposed to know. Like, if you hadn't really read the summary or the of it, or the blurb, I guess, you would really be confused, because you're just kind of trying to sort out what she's talking about, what Shazi is talking about, and then, like, for all of this thing about her revenge being for her, revenge for her best friend's death, you don't actually learn a lot about her best friend or her relationship with her best friend. Like, there's not even any, like, flashbacks between her and her best friend, and, maybe moments they had together. There's, like, nothing like that. So you just are told that this person is her best friend, and you just kind of have to be like, okay, I get it. Like, you're not given any evidence to that. And I don't know, I just would have liked a little bit more memories or something, or more stories about this girl and why she meant so much to Shazi, and yeah, it was just a bit weird. And then the romance was like, I don't know, it just I didn't buy it. It wasn't great. It just kind of happened, and I was just kind of like, okay, so we're just going to go with this. Like, there doesn't seem to be any build up. Like, it just kind of was like, I don't know, it was just kind of there because it had to happen basically, and I just felt like it didn't realistically add up. There wasn't anything really driving them together. Like, that's how I can explain it, I guess. I think people who read the book will know what I'm talking about, but overall I just felt the world building was a little bit lacking. The ending was really abrupt, and it was just like real letdown. I just didn't really like the ending at all. And then the characters were all just kind of flat and one-dimensional for me. I just didn't really get any of them. I had no connection to any of the characters. I probably will continue on with this, but it probably won't be for another while. I'm not eager to continue on with the second book anytime soon. So I gave it a 3. I did originally give it a 3.5 stars, but then with more thought I've dropped it down to just a very low 3 stars, possibly even a 2.5 stars. And Lily felt basically the exact same as me, and we both had really similar thoughts about this book, which is great obviously. But yeah, so 2.5, 3 stars for me for this one. And the next book I read was for to read a book with this letter of the person you're buddy reading with, and that was Labyrinth Lost by Zoraida Cordova, as obviously that has L in it for Lily. And this is a book I got from NetGalley as well, and this was a really enjoyable book. I really enjoyed this. This is basically about a girl called Alexandra who is from a family of brujas, and brujas are basically a kind of a Latin American version of witches. So her family are all into this, all have these magical powers, and one day Alexandra comes into her powers and she has to do her death day celebration, which is basically when her ancestors bless her powers and she's able to use her powers properly, with all the blessings invoked upon her. And she doesn't really like her powers. She feels like magic has always brought bad things upon her family, and she decides that she is going to reject her powers on her death day. And she ends up doing a special canto, which is a spell, on her death day, and accidentally sends her entire family to the bruja version of hell basically, and she has to go and team up with this boy called Nova, and she has to go to this hell to try and get her family back and try and make sure they aren't killed by this really evil bruja called the Devourer. And that is kind of what this is about, and it was just really fun. It was really great. I think people who like Percy Jackson might like this book. I know this sounds a bit weird, but it's kind of like there's this kind of underground, and it's a little bit like, you know, the Hades underground, where you have all these like different creatures, and the guardian of like a river, a little bit like the river Styx. And yeah, it's just really interesting, and I really enjoyed it. There's so much kind of tradition, history and culture in this like Latin American tradition, which obviously the whole bruja thing is kind of made up and like their traditions, but it is stemmed, I think, from a realistic tradition. And it was just really great to see it, and I really enjoyed it, and I can't wait to continue on. I think this is going to be a series or a trilogy, I'm not really sure, but I really can't wait to continue on with it, because this was a really great, strong first book, I think. And it was just a lot of fun to read. I really enjoyed it, and I gave it a 4 out of 5 stars. And while I was away as well, I finished up an audiobook I've been reading since the end of April, and that was The Girl in the Red Coat by Kate Hamer. This book I gave 3 out of 5 stars to. It is basically about a girl who is kidnapped when she is 8 years old, and it's told through dual point of view, from her mother's point of view and her point of view, as they try and find where she is, and then as she is kind of duped into believing this man who took her is her grandfather, and she is taken away to just do different things with him. This was okay. It wasn't great. There are parts of it that felt very slow and boring. And yeah, I just gave it a 3 out of 5 stars because there was definitely nothing to be impressed about. It definitely wasn't really thrillery. I've seen a few people say that as well. It's definitely not like, it doesn't really keep you on the edge of your seat. It's just kind of like a okay. So yeah, I can't really say too much about it except it was okay. It wasn't great. And yeah. And then at the moment I am just finishing off 6 of Crows by Leigh Bardugo. I only have like this much left, so I'll definitely finish this by tonight. This is about a heist set in the world of the Grisha. It's set a few years after the events in the Ruin Rising, which is the 3rd book in the Grisha series by Leigh Bardugo, and this is really great. I'm really enjoying this. I haven't heard any bad words about this, and so I kind of knew I would enjoy it, but I'm really enjoying it. It's really fun. All the characters are so amazing. They all have this great backstory and history, and I just love all of them so much. They're all just fantastic. It's really great seeing other parts of this world rather than just the part of the world that we saw within the original Grisha trilogy. You're seeing a different part of the world, different cultures, different traditions, you know, and I'm just really enjoying it. And yeah, I can't wait to finish it. This is probably going to be a 4 or a 5 star for me. It's probably going to be a 5 star unless something really bad happens, but I'm really enjoying it and I can't wait to finish it. So that was all the books I read. I also did some colouring this week as well. I finished off a couple of pages in my colouring book, this one, and then I also finished off this one, which I'm really happy with. I think they look really pretty, so I am quite happy with that. Please let me know what you guys are reading this week, and hopefully I'll have some videos for you this week as well, because I planned to do a lot of pre-recording and then I didn't during the week, so I have to do some pre-recording now and get some videos up and running. And yeah, thank you for watching and I'll see you guys again next time. Bye!